The Giants' head coaching search is underway, and they have interviewed Eric Bieniemy, who is the Chiefs' offensive coordinator under Andy Reid. 50 years old, Lance. History as a player, was a second-round draft pick in 1991 by the San Diego Chargers, a running backs coach, and then eventually became an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Bieniemy is the perfect example, John, of somebody who's paid his dues and has slowly worked up the charts in terms of coaching. Not only was he a running back as a player, he was also a special teamer, a good punt returner, a good kickoff returner,
Absolutely.
and then applied that to his coaching tenure. You're talking about somebody that coached Adrian Peterson, somebody that worked with Jamal Charles, and also helped lead a historical season for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2018 in which Patrick Mahomes won MVP.
Yeah, they were the top-rated offense in terms of yards per game and yards per play in 2018 and 2019. Sixth in yards per game, second in yards per play. Remember, they had a few games there where Patrick Mahomes was not the starting quarterback. He got hurt. Matt Moore had to step in for him. In terms of his coaching history, you mentioned some of his stops. He was a running backs coach in college from 2001 to 2005 at Colorado and UCLA. Then he was the offensive coordinator at Colorado for 2 years, went to the Chiefs, running back coach for 5 more years. Then he became the offensive coordinator the last 2. And the thing with Bieniemy that's tricky is that Andy Reid's his head coach, who obviously is well-versed in offense. He calls the plays, but Bieniemy works in a lot of other areas that an offensive coordinator would, even though he's not necessarily the play caller.
Yeah, he's immersed in the offense just as much as Andy Reid. And keep in mind, this is to me the interesting part of Eric Bieniemy. The 2 previous offensive coordinators for the Chiefs, John, have gone on to become head coaches under Andy Reid. Matt Nagy was an offensive coordinator, went to become the head coach of the Bears, and Doug Peterson, who Giants fans know well here in the NFC East, he was also Andy Reid's offensive coordinator, became the head coach of the Eagles. So I guess what that is an indication of is even though he has not been the play caller primarily in Kansas City, Andy Reid has done a good job grooming a number of the assistants under him to then take on the role of a head coach and also have success at that level.
And both Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson, of course, a Super Bowl championship, got the Eagles to the playoffs this year despite the fact they lost so many skill position guys due to injuries. And remember, even if you're not calling plays, you're doing installation, you're doing scripts, you're in the meetings with the quarterbacks, and you're involved and you learn from a guy like Andy Reid all the important things that are necessary to put a good offense together. And Lance, one of the things that impressed me about Andy Reid and what he's done with the Chiefs, that's not your cookie-cutter West Coast offense that we used to have seen from a lot of other people from that coaching tree. He has included a lot of things from college, pre-snap motion, spread in the field. He's been very flexible and willing to integrate a lot of new concepts into what isn't traditional West Coast offense stuff. And Eric Bieniemy's been there, seen that happen, so he understands what's gone into making the Chiefs the type of offensive juggernaut they've become.
There's a great deal of creativity, as you mentioned, John, in their offense. Plus, he's also been in Kansas City when they've suffered some injuries. I mentioned Jamal Charles. Remember, Jamal Charles had a torn ACL, and then all of a sudden they're bringing in Sharkhandrick West and Spencer Ware. Not necessarily household names, John.
Well, how many running backs? And then they have to lose Kareem Hunt as well last year. It's a million different running backs.
But they've adjusted, to your point. And also, when they've lost Patrick Mahomes, they still found a way to win games.
And they lost Tyreek Hill this year, too. Sammy Watkins ended that lineup with his feet injury. So, yeah, they've had to deal with a lot of those issues.
And also, what Kansas City has done because of the injuries, they've infused a lot of youth. And once again, when you look at the Giants situation, because that's what we're here to discuss, this is a relatively young roster, and trying to get the most potential out of those young guys and get them to perform consistently is something that Bieniemy has been exposed to during his tenure in KC as well as in Minnesota when he worked with a very young Adrian Peterson, who was a rookie in 2007.
And he worked with Patrick Mahomes the first year he was their starting quarterback, and that kind of went well, I think.
Yeah, I think slightly it went well. I don't know. Winning MVP seems to be impressive, but what do I know?
Yeah, so obviously, like that history of helping quarterbacks develop, Eric Bieniemy has that in spades, given what he did with Patrick Mahomes. So another attractive candidate interviews for the New York Giants head coaching position. He's Lance Medow. I'm John Schmeelk. Stay tuned to Giants.com. It's the only official place to keep track of the Giants head coaching search.
Hey Giants fans, Saquon Barkley here. You want to see more videos? Subscribe below.